This is Ashley, who's calling from us from Colorado. Ashley, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Well, actually, I have a comment and a question, if you don't mind. I've been working my way back through Seth's podcast, and I just have to comment on the processed cheese food. Yes, it's food, and you can also buy it in bulk on Amazon in 1 or 2 pound packages.
No, we did a general knowledge show. And we were having the discussion about whether or not that processed cheese powder that you put into instant mac and cheese qualifies as actual food. I think it's like fine dining, right? But people were having a spirited debate about it, and she has come to my defense. It absolutely is.
Listen, Seth,
it's food.
Listen, Seth, you bring your fans to this show. They don't know my name, and now you're bringing your debates.
I am.
And what is this? What is this? Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
After today, I'll definitely be following you, Dan, because I have actually, I did come to your show through Seth's post on Facebook, and I appreciate that. My question is, so I've been an atheist since I was about 15. I'm just about to turn 39. And for the most part, my family has been accepting of it. And I think that may have more to do with my mother's influence than anything. But my mother passed away about a decade ago, and my father has since remarried into a very religious family, religious fronting family, I should say. Behind the scenes, it's a little bit questionable with some of their actions. I guess my question is, I am very open about being an atheist, and in the past year or so, my stepmother, and to a point my father, has kind of started needling at me a little bit, like making little hints. And the most recent one was kind of like the origins of last names and how my history led to a city with a school, and the name of the church is same as my last name. And she's like, oh, maybe that's a sign from God. And I just looked at her and read my book. So I apologize, I'm rambling, but I guess I'm curious to know what's the best way to handle that situation without giving into my urge to blow up and yell at her and get into an argument. Because if I get into an argument, it's going to end up like it did with the first 2 callers.
Yeah, Seth, you go first on this one.
Well, I've been through that. There's a lot of passive aggression that has come through the pipe with my mother and father before my father passed away. But my mother, I was over, she sends me a text and she's like, I need you to come over and put together a bookshelf. Okay, fine. Well, we don't have a great relationship, but I'll come help. And as I'm on my hands and knees with the tools putting the bookshelf together, she starts quoting from the Epoch Times newspaper and talking about what she heard on Fox News and speaking about the end times and, the abortion debates and the book of Genesis. And, I'm a captive audience, right? And I made a decision in that moment. I could have steamrolled right over her and said, what's the matter with you? How dare you? I mostly just held my tongue and got out of there because, I was looking at the drywall behind her. She had this drywall, and I thought I could just as soon argue with that as argue with her, and I would get just as far. I could argue with the door or the bookshelf or the coffee pot, and I'm not going to get anywhere. And my time's too valuable. My energy and sanity is too valuable. So I don't know exactly what your path forward is, but I will say that if you try to engage with data points theologically against somebody who has a belief that's linked to their values, and certainly her religion is, right? She is likely sending, not receiving. Yep. That way, madness lies. You will want to put your head through the window within a few minutes.
Yeah.
So I think, it's a cost benefit as to how much you engage. I'm not as interested in who's right and who's wrong at that moment. I'm interested in boundaries. So it's okay for you to say, you know what? I've taken this journey on my own. I've come to a different conclusion. We stand apart. I disagree on this. And I'd like to ask that we talk about other things. You have the right to draw that hard line. And say, I'm not going to engage here. You don't come at me with this stuff. And then if they continue, it becomes a boundary violation. It becomes an overt act of disrespect. And I think that's when you can really, put some consequences in place. If you stop, you will not see me again. If you stop, if you don't stop, rather, I am not going to abide or entertain this. But I wouldn't, I mean, it's not that minds are never changed, because Dan and I are examples that minds can be changed, but I think we had to crack the door first.
Yep.
Somebody who's doxastically closed, who is just a bullhorn, a seminar preacher of the gospel, or even a passive aggressor of the gospel. I wouldn't waste my time trying to tell them why they're wrong or why you're right. I think you focus more about boundaries. You do or do not have the right to step into my space and treat me this specific way. Here's my rule. Do not break it. I don't know. I'm rambling a bit, but does that help you at all?
It does. It does. And my biggest concern is I just don't want to get my dad mixed up into everything, because while he is religious, he just doesn't want to stir the pot. Because, he's seen me come out of the closet on 4 different things now. So me being an atheist is definitely nothing new to him. It's just,
well, if I can jump in quickly, forgive the interruption.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to make sure that we have time to finish your thought. Is that a conversation you could have with Dad? I mean, can you sit down over coffee and say, I've noticed that she is sort of overtly or even subtly kind of going here. And, I really don't want that to be about part of our relationship. I don't want it to ever be anything that would come between us, you and me, Dad. Is there a way to put that on the table to help prepare him a little bit?
I think there is. It's just this past year, it's been kind of hard for me to do that lately, because, oh gosh, back in October, he had surgery to remove a tumor from his brain. So it's not like I want to go and stress him out, but I think that might be time to have that conversation, because it's one of those things, like, he's asked me when I was younger, I used to be angry about it and used to go in for those fights. And as I've gotten older, I've stopped. And he's asked, hey, can you not do this? Say this around them. Like, okay, I don't, but then they do. And I think it's probably time to have that conversation. Okay, if I'm not going to say anything, what's wrong with them not saying anything?
Well, and I don't think that conversation has to be a stressor. I really think it can be a bonding, sort of a calming, balming moment. Dad, what I want more than anything else, despite our disagreements, is I just want us to be okay. And, if some of these other things happen, I would rather not engage. I really don't want this to become a thing. No matter what's happened in the past, I just want to focus on us. And I think if you approach him in that way, in good faith, he might, it might actually make him feel better. It gets it all out in the open. And it's possible that he might be a better advocate for you if those passive aggressions start to approach you and he's in the room. He might help you shut it down because he totally gets you. I don't know. It might be something worth trying.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it would be a good conversation to have with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Ashley, I know you want to talk to Seth. You didn't want to talk to me today, and that's
no.
Okay.
Talk to Dan.
I'm gonna give my take anyway. Here's what I think. When people ask me this question, I always have to wonder, what's the motivation here? And do they want to figure out how to have a relationship with their loved ones, or do they want to convince them of what they believe in that moment? Because those are often 2 different things, right? And I don't think you're doing that. I just be clear. I don't think that in order for you to have a relationship with them, they have to believe or not believe the same way you do. And that's great. But I think it's important to let that out for people who maybe need to think about that, for those who are struggling in their own relationships with their folks. Because, we can't brainwash people into thinking the way that we do. And it's good, right? Like, I don't want people to think the way I do just by me snapping my fingers and doing that. I want to be able to have a conversation, a reasonable discussion about why we believe the things we do. But that takes time. And it takes a long, long time. For myself, it took like a year in order for me to do that. And if I took a year to do that, then I have to give the same patience that I would give for myself to other people. And I think that's a good thing to think about as you're having these conversations. And I know that they're annoying about it and they're being passive aggressive about it. My family does the same thing. But as long as you're consistent with your values, you have a right to express your beliefs or non-beliefs. And you also have a right to express when you feel like you're being threatened by other people's comments, because at the end of the day, sometimes it's not about what they believe versus you believe. Sometimes it's a power dynamic there too that gets in the way. So a lot of things to deconstruct in that. But I think what Seth said was pretty golden. I would start with that. See if you can come at it and just say, look, this is about my relationship with you. This isn't about all this other stuff. We can talk about all this other stuff another day. You know, they're going to still be Christians tomorrow. So
yeah, I'm glad you said that too, because I do think that I'm not saying that it's we shouldn't find an opportunity to sit down and do the Socratic thing.
Yeah.
Well, how did you come to that belief? Can we talk about the things that are most important to us? But at first, I think we have to establish boundaries.
Yeah.
I can always come back to that word because it's my big sticking point. So
hope
it helps.
Boundaries are good.
Yes, it did. Thank you so much. And Seth, thank you for introducing me to Objectively Dan, because I am in love with this podcast now.
Hey, I'm a giver. You know, I'm a giver. I just the people that enter my life, I want to enter yours as well. You take care. Be safe. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ashley. You got you're bringing in some interesting callers here, Seth. Interesting callers.
It's amazing. You know, I've been at the table, the only non-Christian at the table, the only non-evangelical.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, somebody over here looks at somebody on the other side of the table. Did you read that article about how the majority of scientists have now come to the conclusion that evolution is completely false and that the book of Genesis explains the origin of humankind? And the person over here is like, well, no, tell me all about it. I'm so interested. And I'm just like, I'm right here, people. Like, I'm right here. I know what you're doing. You know? And it makes me crazy.
It's a Dragon Ball Z thing. Yeah, I have to hide my power level. Like, they don't know. Like, I've literally read entire books on why you're wrong. You know what I mean?
It's hard being in the room with Bible believers, and I know their Bible better than they do.
Right.
It's ironic. Hashtag irony.
Yeah, and when we do research, we're not just looking at whatever's popping up on Facebook feeds either, right? We're talking about, hopefully, at least people in our community are citing scholarly articles, are citing, citations worth citing rather than any other stuff. But it's a whole thing.